Just outside one of Guatemala's largest landfills sits an entire community. Each day, residents sift through piles of garbage, picking out anything of value, either to keep or to sell. There's a lot of them, says one of the on-duty managers. Severe poverty in Guatemala systematically pushing residents to join migrant caravans headed to the U.S. southern border. 60% of Guatemalans live below the poverty line, and 95% of them don't earn enough to provide for their family's basic needs. People who live in Guatemala say it's not as violent as its counterparts in the Northern Triangle. It also borders on Mexico, which makes it a strategic stop as migrants travel to the north. This is Casa del Migrante. It's right here in the heart of Guatemala City. Now, not only does this place provide shelter, food, and clothing for migrants who are in danger, but it also helps them file for asylum in certain cases where they can't go back home because they'll be killed. The shelter is built to house around 40 people at a time. Suseli Donis is a psychologist here. She tells me back in October, it was so packed with people, they had to turn the gymnasium into a place to sleep for close to 1,000 men, women, and children making their way to the United States. You feel powerless. They bring just one bag, she tells me, for a family of 5 that recently showed up at the center looking for refuge. Their entire life packed into a single suitcase. We visited the center along with a New York delegation on a fact-finding mission about migration.
People have a sense that people are migrating to the United States in order to take advantage of us somehow, to take something away from us. That is not the case at all. They're coming to this country because they feel that they have no choice. Many of them are fleeing. Many of them feel if they stay where they are, they're going to be killed. Their families are going to be killed.
We met with one of the men staying at the center. He is in his late 50s and was deported from Los Angeles after living in the States for over 30 years. He tried to go back to his native country of El Salvador, but fled there because of the widespread violence.
A guy grabbed me from the shirt with a 9mm with a magazine loaded. He put it in my hand, said, "Get on your knees." They thought they killed me, because I passed out. And they rolled me in a blanket and went to throw me to a garbage. They robbed me everything. They beat me to death, but I'm alive. And I've figured out that I cannot go back to El Salvador anymore.
He is now applying for asylum in Guatemala, hoping to eventually make it back to his family in LA. One of the hundreds of thousands of Central Americans who, whether it's due to poverty, violence, or even climate change, are looking to the U.S. just to stay alive. Today, the Department of Health and Human Services announced that a 16-year-old teenager from Guatemala died after falling ill at a government shelter in Texas. He is the 3rd minor from Guatemala to die while in the custody of the U.S. government. In just the past 5 months, it goes to show that just because they make it to the United States doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to have a future here.
Right. It's just unbelievable, one story after another. What happens once migrants do get to the border, though?
So what happens is that they then, if they have an asylum case, they're given a court date. Oftentimes, that court date can be 2 to 3 months in advance.
You know, it's so often...
Or 2 to 3 years in advance. 2 to 3 years later.
Wow.